Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rotor Talk Live, Season 3, Episode 22. Very special guest, Sally French. Sally's no stranger. Welcome, Sally. How are you doing this evening?
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to see you. And it was about this time last year that we had you on as well. And it's always a pleasure. I remember in fact, I celebrated my third anniversary as a channel yesterday. And one of the things I remembered was my very first show I had you on, and it was probably I couldn't have picked a better premiere episode for Rotor Talk Live than having you.
Well, that is so nice of you to say. I like the idea of making this an annual thing. It's our little drone reunion.
I like that. That's a good thing. So, how you surviving the pandemic and everything that's going on right now?
Things are obviously wild. I mean, in a lot of ways, we're all going through the same things here in the drone community. So, it's like we're all in this together. And, even in the drone industry, sometimes people are divided over, different thoughts on UTM or drone delivery. But this is a time that I think we can all come together and support each other. I'm really sad to hear the news about AirMap's offices being burned down.
Yeah, that was a real tragedy. And you're right. It's a time for everybody to come together. I mean, it was bad enough having the pandemic, and then now the riots that have happened and the lawlessness that's happened, and we're just hoping and praying that this just gets quelled quickly. And I thought it was going to be immune living in Tampa. I didn't think. Well, sure enough, it happened in Tampa overnight. We had problems in Tampa. I mean, we're not a major city, and it still happens. So it's like nobody's immune from this, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I live in downtown San Francisco, and there was a literal dumpster fire outside my building last night.
Gosh, yeah, it's like, well, it's like you've been enclosed from the pandemic. A lot of people have. I've been working from home this whole time, so is my wife, and then now compound this now with, oh, well, you probably better not go out right now, and there's probably going to be a curfew, and it's just. Well, enough of this. Let's get talking to drones.
I love it.
And I know personal favorite drone of yours was the original Mavic Air. I know you've really you have made no secret you absolutely love that drone. And I'll tell you what, it was a favorite of mine as well. Of course, it had some weaknesses with the Wi-Fi, the signal strength, and I think for me, well, for a lot of people, it was sounding like a hornet's nest. A lot of people did that, and we had a lot of thoughts and theories on what DJI would do with the Mavic Air 2. But you know what? I think they blew it out of the water. I mean, they just hit a home run. What do you think about the Mavic Air 2?
I have one coming in the mail soon. It should be hopefully arriving in a couple of days, and hopefully it's safe to leave outside and go actually fly it. I think this drone is something that's really a dream for photographers, especially, and it seems like DJI is totally leaning into that camp of people who want to up their photography game. And so, I always wonder when a new drone comes out, what can they do to make it better and to make it something worth paying more than the last one? And, I really think that they nailed it, and they managed to find something unique. The 48 megapixel photos are something that people are really, really interested in. And, I know there's some questions about how that technology works, but the idea that you can get so much detail on a subject, I see a lot of use cases where something like that could be really interesting for a photographer.
Well, one of the things that I found already, and I know it was an original complaint on the Mavic Air, was when you would put it in sport mode and start to do the video, it got real wonky. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I did a test of that, and that was my latest video. Initially it kind of tilts down. Okay.
Okay.
But then there's no, it's like it's smooth as butter. I mean, I did that. I had, I fly out over that lake behind my house, which is a nice area to fly. And Sally, the video came out. It was just stellar from that. I mean, that's one of the things that I was really anxious to test, because I know, and I saw, Billy Kyle, he had that problem too. I mean, it was just, it was like that gimbal was going all over the place. It was just rock steady.
That's good to know because, I talk to a lot of photographers and I say, don't fly fast because you're going to get really unstable video. It's not going to look good. So I'm really glad to hear you say that, actually.
Well, one of the other things was that my number one thing that I have been most impressed with this drone is the runtime. Okay. It has blown me away because I've been really experimenting with that 8K hyperlapse. I mean, the lake behind our house faces west. So, obviously we get sunsets back there, and sunsets in Florida are something pretty special.
I bet.
That hyperlapses eat up a lot of battery time. Okay.
Right.
I mean, it really does. And I'll tell you what, Sally, it really impressed the daylights out of me. Not only did I get an 8K hyperlapse of the sunset, I was still able to do a lap around the lake before I came back, and I had 35% battery left. I mean, it was just...
wow. So how long was that in flight?
I was in flight about 25 minutes,
That's great.
25, 26 minutes. And I still had like 35% left in the tank. I mean, it really was just impressed the daylights out of me. Now, one of the things, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but one of the guys that we have on Tuesday nights, Lauren Donauer, he works in a DJI store up in Canada. And one of the things he advised us on was not to use the multi-charger when you first get the Mavic Air 2. You're aware of that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I did was I charged each battery individually. And he said they're waiting for a firmware update to come out from DJI, and they haven't done that yet. But there's an obvious issue because evidently it has to do with battery activation. And if you don't do that, you could brick each of your batteries when you do that.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So, it kind of pays to know some people. He's been fantastic, and I loved having him on the show. But he unfortunately won't be able to be on until the end of July because he's under a non-disclosure agreement. So... yeah, so that means something else is coming probably in July. So
from DJI?
Yeah, so stay tuned. I mean, he kind of dropped some hints about the Mavic 3. So I
love it. Bill the drone reviewer has all the secrets.
Well, he's actually been, and I got to say this, Sally, he's been the most reliable person in terms of what I hear in terms of rumors and things. His have all panned out. I mean, from the past 2 years, everything he said has been spot on, 100% accurate. And that's why, he just asked one time to come on the show to clarify some things, and then I've just had him on. I mean, he's just been so good. And he also runs a very good organization, and I thought I'm going to send you some links to that. There's a Facebook page. It's called Drones for Good International. He has a Facebook page on that. And I think it would be really good for you to take a look at this. And he gets a lot from Romeo Dersher. I know you know who Romeo Dersher is. And Romeo's a great friend of mine as well, too. And really promoting the idea of, just these instances of, drones finding people that were lost or, criminal activities, that type of thing. Just the good that drones can do. And it's really kind of emphasized on this Facebook page. So I think that'd be something you might want to be interested in. I think that would be a real good thing.
Totally. I'll check it out.
One of the other things with the Mavic Air 2, and this is just, okay, I'm going to say this. It's not really, it's the DJI Fly app. All right.
Yeah.
And okay, I love the app itself.
I like it too.
I think it's great. But the one thing, and it's just one of my other co-hosts and it's just one of our pet peeves. DJI uses white lettering. Okay. And the background with the sky, a lot of times I can't see like battery or, telemetry data or stuff because it's white on like a white background. And it's like impossible to see. It's like, okay, DJI, I used to be a programmer, so I know it's not that hard to change a color of a font,
Yeah. I've never thought about that, but that makes total sense.
Yeah, it's really been something that's, for me, it's like, I want to be able to see that. I really want to be able to see that. And I think one of the other things you're really going to like, it's another one of my favorites on the Mavic Air 2 is that controller. Okay. There's now in terms of your antenna is built in the, when you open up the cradle, that's your antenna. Okay. And you don't have to point it, down. You don't have to point it up. It's constantly going to get your best signal out. and with that OcuSync 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that just the range on this has been, I've had it out. I don't usually fly more than 2,500, 3,000 feet away. It's been strong. The signal, my FPV view has just been fantastic. There's been no issues with that. But I think as far as the controller is concerned, that grip that you have on that, it's a lot like, I mean, it's built like the smart controller. Okay. It has that nice grip on it. It's easy to hold. And, I absolutely love it. I think they hit a home run when they built this controller.
That's good to know. And I'm so excited about the OcuSync. I mean, I remember when the early Phantoms were coming out and people would ask me what the range was. And I would say, why does it really matter? Because you don't want to fly the drone farther than you can see. But now you have these use cases of people using Mavics for delivery. And it's so important to have something like OcuSync and get a super long range out of something cheap like a Mavic 2.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing that I found with this, too, is, one of the things that Lauren advised us on was the SD card, because you really need to be careful with what type of SD card that you pick for this, because, you realize, especially when it's doing like an 8K hyperlapse, that's all done on the aircraft. Okay. And a lot of people say, oh, it's a computer. No, it's done on the aircraft. And you can see it, and that's what I kind of did like a tutorial, and I said, you'll see the clock counting down around the shutter, and it's telling you that it's processing this, okay? And then it stitches this together, and it's just like, it's incredible. One of the things that, and I'm glad we're talking about, don't have it yet, because I'm gonna be able to help you out and give
You're
you.
making me excited.
One of the things that I kind of have to look out for on it is, one of the reasons my favorite drone is the Mavic 2 Pro is its low light sensitivity. Okay. Because one of the things I absolutely love to film sundowns. Okay. Whether doing a hyperlapse of them or, putting it in tripod mode and getting a nice slow video of it. I absolutely love doing that. But the low light sensitivity on the Mavic Air 2, it's not the Mavic 2 Pro. Okay. So I did an 8K hyperlapse the other night, and then I had to take it in. I use DaVinci Resolve for my editor, and I had to go in there and I had to brighten it and lighten it up because it was just, the surrounding area was just too dark. I mean, it just doesn't pull that light in like the Mavic 2 Pro. It's, for example, one of my friends from New Jersey, Ron Brown, he and I and our wives went over to Reddington Beach, which is one of the beaches by us here. And we filmed a sunset at night, and he had the original Mavic Pro and I was doing the Mavic 2 Pro, but you could see, he says, oh my gosh, Bill, he's looking at my screen and he's looking at his, it was like night and day in terms of, the light sensitivity.
Interesting.
Coming in. So that's just kind of a thing, you may want to, and I haven't got to the point of being able to, to kind of mess around with settings, maybe adjust white balance a little bit and some of the other things. It's not the other thing with the DJI Fly app, and I love it. It's doesn't have that deep menu system that the Go 4 app has. Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely much simpler and sort of geared towards the newbies.
Yeah, and that's a thing. That's a huge plus for that. But one of the side notes of that is it's not as robust with your camera settings. Okay.
Yeah.
And we get kind of spoiled. And I know you, because, with the DJI Go 4, I know you're spoiled because you're so used to using it. And then you come back to this and it's nice, but,
you're like, where's this?
Where's this? I can't. And then you find out you can't do this. Well, one of the other things is, with it having OcuSync 2.0, it's going to be able to work with a smart controller. Do you have a smart controller?
No, I don't, but
okay.
I'll have to get my hands on one.
You know what? I tell you what, you can pry my cold dead hands off of everything else except the smart controller. Okay. Because I think that's the greatest invention ever since sliced bread. All right.
I love it.
It's just, I went out on a whim, and I was one of those ones. I was like, oh, it's too small. The screen's small. I was just being negative Nelly on it. And then I got it. And I'll tell you what, Sally, it's just like, you can't pry my hands off it. It's so easy to use. All right. You power that on, you power your drone on, you're ready to go. There's nothing else you need to do. I mean, It's crazy awesome. It really is. And it has a built-in screen recorder, and it records your audio with you too. And especially for doing things with the channel, it's just it's so nice because and then it records it to an SD card, and you can just download it on your PC. I mean, it's a piece of it's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. It is interesting to see with the Mavic Air too. It seems like DJI is really leaning into sort of the photographer who's like kind of serious but not super into drones. It's actually not the person who's watching this right now. It is sort of someone who doesn't know so much about drones and wants to keep it nice and simple. And I will say the one thing I really liked about it was I was flying the Mavic Mini in Hawaii, and I got this great shot of a turtle overhead. And I loved how easy it was to upload the footage. We got the turtle shot. We had a dinner reservation. I hate to be on my phone at dinner. I don't want to be one of those people, but I wanted to get this turtle shot up, and I could edit it really quickly in the app, add video, and instantly put it on my Instagram before the dinner even came. And that is the one thing that, I know they've simplified a lot of features in the app, but making it easy to upload video immediately when you're excited about it, I think that's what's sort of going to make drones hit the mainstream. It's like, I saw this turtle, I'm excited about it. It's on my Instagram now, and it's done. It's not like you have to come back and edit it. It's so interesting to see they're trying to reach a different sort of audience.
Yeah, that's the ability to be able to do that is just I think it's incredible because it's like you don't have to mess around. You don't have to download it onto your PC and then put it into an editor and do all the stuff. Boom, you can do it. It has there's some canned music that you can use.
Totally, and it's not bad. It works.
All that, and it works. I mean, it's for a lot of people who just want to get some quick shots out there, it's perfect. It really,
I'm so interested now to hear you say that we might have a Mavic 3 coming out later this summer, because I love how DJI is sort of differentiating. Like, the Mavic 3 is for the serious photographer. I mean, the Mavic 2, the sensor is twice as big as the Mavic Air 2's sensor, so of course the photo quality is going to be better. So it's kind of like, if you're this super serious drone person, then you get the Mavic 3 coming out this summer maybe. And if you're like this casual photographer who, wants to spend $800 and get fun shots on your vacation, like the Mavic Air 2 is so good.
And the one other thing I really like, I mean, it's like when you hold the Mavic Mini in your hand and then you hold the Mavic Air 2 in your hand, you can tell. I mean, it's just the weight, and I know the whole thing about the Mini was the 259 grams. Okay?
Yeah.
The whole thing about that. And I love the Mavic Mini, but it's just like the Achilles heel. See, and I think you probably, San Francisco is known to be kind of windy. Well, Florida down here as well, especially near the coast, it's very windy, and there's just a lot of times I can take up every drone except the Mini. It won't. You can't get it up there. I mean, if it's like 15-mile-an-hour winds, forget it. It's not. Totally. It's not gonna work.
I agree. The wind, that for me, the Mavic Mini made me nervous. I mean, like, I remember flying it in Hawaii, and there were multiple times that I just was like, I'm not gonna take this off. I don't want to risk it.
Yeah, and what's gonna be nice is when we finally get back to traveling, is to be able to take the Mavic Air 2 is a great drone to travel with because
totally.
It's like it's going to be able to fit in my overnight bag, which is fantastic. Right. I don't have to lug out a big bag. And one of the other things that I wanted to ask you about was, and this is just in terms of general with DJI, the trend is going from the Phantom series having something big and bulky to portability. I mean, DJI really kind of made that very clear in terms of where the direction that they're heading.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes so much sense. I honestly, this is so bad, but I think the last time I flew a Phantom is, I want to say 2 years ago, and people are like probably throwing tomatoes at their screen right now, but it's so cumbersome. It's so annoying. I usually take my drone when I travel, and I'm the person who's too cheap to pay for the check-in bags. And so the fact that, I mean, the Mavic Mini, I can fit, if it's the winter, I can fit it in my pea coat pocket is just insane. So I want to be able to travel light and not carry a bunch of stuff with me. I mean, even like I love to just go out on walks. San Francisco's so nice to just go walk around and find some like cool random parking lot. And I'm not going to like casually walk with my Phantom, but it's easy to just throw the Mavic Air 2 in my purse. And so,
Yeah.
DJI is doing everything they can to make flying a drone less cumbersome. And so we talked about, they've made it so much easier to upload stuff to Instagram immediately after you've taken it. You don't even need to pull out the SD card and put it in your computer. That makes it less cumbersome. Same with just carrying it around. If I can just throw it in my purse, of course I'm going to fly more often.
Oh yeah. Well, one of the things that a lot of people, I was able to, there's an app called Prism Live. I don't know if you've heard of that before or not, because a lot of people asked me when the Mini first came out can you be able to go live with it? And I said, no, there's no capabilities in the Fly app. However, with Prism Live, you can do that. And I actually did a demo of that, which was real interesting. And there's a way now, it's very easy to do that with Android devices, but with Apple devices, not so. I mean, there's a procedure and there's a way to follow that. Well, I found out from one of my friends, he tried that with the Mavic Air 2, and he said he almost lost connection with it. It all, it was pretty bad. So, he said at this point, but, I'm hopeful because, that's been such a neat platform to be able to go live while you're out flying, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube, and just share with your audience. And, look, they can see the same experience that you're getting as well.
Interesting.
It really is. One of the other things that just came up recently, and I wanted to kind of run this by you, was, Autel, made this recent change to the Evo 2, and it kind of just blew my mind away. They raised the ceiling height to what? It was like, I don't know, 16,000 feet.
Higher than you would fly. Yeah.
I'm like, why? Okay. What, it's like, doesn't Autel, okay. I'm going to back up here. All right. My first drone was an Autel X-Star Premium. All right.
I love the X-Star Premium. Yeah.
Or the Orange Pumpkin. Okay. That's what everybody called it. The Orange Pumpkin. And Sally, Autel makes excellent hardware. I absolutely, I have to say this without a doubt. It's rock solid. Okay. And I actually, through, Rick Smith from Drone Valley, I got to fly the Evo 1, his Evo 1, and it was steady. It was rock steady. It was solid. It was well built. The big Achilles heel for Autel, in my opinion, has always been the software. Okay. In fact, when I sold my X-Star Premium, their software firmware update was a beta, and it never got published. And, that's when the Evo came out. So they never really published a second one. And, it's like time after time again, Autel, when they come out, it's like, okay, they have a horizon tilt issue with the Evo 1. They had to fix that. They've been more responsive, but, it's like, okay, just, why do you do something like this? Obviously it's against rules in our country. So why do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, I wonder if they got complaints that people wanted to fly over the 400-foot ceiling, so they just said, fine, we'll lift it. And they didn't want to take the extra step that DJI has done, where DJI is so smart about it. They say, most users, again, aren't watching Build the Drone Reviewer. Most users probably don't even know you can't fly higher than 400 feet. So we are going to limit you because, the reality is, customers and people are dumb and people don't read the user manual. And so we are going to prevent you from doing anything dumb. But then DJI also recognizes there are situations where you might have to fly above 400 feet. So they've taken the extra step in the software to make it so you can unlock that. You put in your credit card info, you tell them who you are, you log in with your account, and then they let you, fly in Class B airspace or whatever, or fly above 400 feet. And DJI just seems to take a lot of care in that consumer step and that public perception step. And Autel makes great hardware, but they are less concerned about, I would call it the user experience. And in a lot of ways, it makes sense to me because Autel doesn't really have anything to lose if there's a drone crash, but DJI does. I mean, even I see drone crashes that aren't DJI products, and people say, oh, DJI drones are dangerous. And it's like, that wasn't a DJI drone. But when there's a drone crash, DJI is the company that takes the hit. And the smaller guys like Autel don't. So I think, they don't have incentive to be as cautious the way DJI has huge incentive to make sure there are no crashes.
Well, one of the interesting things that appeals to a lot of people is, there's no geofencing with Autel drones. Okay.
Same thing. Exactly.
You can basically fly anywhere you want. And we're going to touch on this in a minute, but, remote ID is going to wipe that out. I mean, it's going to be, the advantage that Autel had with this will be gone. So, it's like, why even have this advantage? And one of the other things that I wanted to talk to you about, and I think a lot of people finally got the point that I was trying to make is, the Autel Evo 2, there's the 8K, then there's a 6K, then there's their thermal one. The processing power required in a PC, and I said this even before it came out. I told people this. I said, you know what? This is where the technology in drones has gotten ahead of technology in most PCs. Okay, most of your average drone flyers don't have a PC that's capable of handling like processing 8K video or 6K video. Now I know like my DaVinci Resolve, it'll process it, but if I have an 8 gigabyte video card, okay, and I have 16 gig of RAM, mine can handle it, but a lot of people don't have that. And then there's the issue of having a monitor. Okay, now I have a 4K. I have a TV as my second monitor, and it's in 4K. Now there's 8K televisions, but they're like $20,000.
Right. Yes. That's what cracks me up is so many people get caught up in these specs like 8K. And I'm like, do you have an 8K TV?
Yeah.
If you do, I want to be friends with you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and that's what and finally, I think a lot of people understood where I was coming from, and they were saying, well, I can process it through software. I can do this. I can do that. Well, you know what? Okay. If you can do it and get it to work, why don't you put a video together and put it out on YouTube so we can all learn? Because I'm telling you right now, okay, I've been in IT for 30 years. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. Okay, it's really kind of simple. And going to remote ID. Okay, now we got that very not so wonderful day after Christmas present. December 26th, we find out about remote ID. All right. And I know you, and I know myself, and I know all my, Ron and Marcus and all the people that, that I associate with, we really put together some great comments to send out to the FAA. And of course, there are these people that put these probably, put these horrible comments out there, probably littered with profanity, and I said, okay, all right, I got my comment in, obviously they're going to have to do something because what they came up with was, really, it was not a practical solution in any way, shape, or form. So what do we, we go through the pandemic. Okay. So what's the FAA decide to do? Oh, we're going to go forward with this. And I'm like, okay, let me find a brick wall and hit my head. Sally, it doesn't make any sense.
I am pretty surprised just given how many big companies came out against the comments. I mean, there were a lot of comments coming from hobbyists who felt like the rules didn't make sense for them, and they're totally valid comments. And I'm so glad all those hobbyists wrote in. But what's interesting to me is that big players like Google or Wing, the I guess now sister company of Google, and DJI wrote comments against them. And it just seems to me like if these big companies that are very invested in the FAA are against the remote ID rules, who is for them is just sort of odd. And, when you're at a point where the little hobbyist and Wing and DJI are all in agreement, like that says something for the industry. And then for the FAA to not go with it is just like very bizarre to me.
It really does. And, well, for example, my friend Marcus, he lives out in Meridian, Idaho. Okay. And he lives near the Snake River Canyon. That's Class G airspace. Okay. And Class G airspace, it's the Wild West. Okay.
Right.
open your throttle up, go for it kind of thing. All right. So, his question, and and it was a very valid point. All right. Out there, he probably has little to no cell phone service. Okay. You can't get a carrier out there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how can he fly? I mean, it's like you can't do it. You have to, the way they have those rules set up, you gotta have a cell phone connection no matter what option you choose. And here we go. And it's like you can't do it. I mean,
yeah.
Well, I gotta say this. DJI came out with a proposed solution. Now it's not perfect, and I chatted with Brendan Schulman several times over Twitter about it, and I really like what they did. Okay, they came out and they said, look, we can leverage existing technology. We can make sure it's not a burden on the consumer. All right, and it will have the benefit of getting the information out to people. Now, one of the other things that's been a real sore point with a lot of people is that, if I want to see where Sally French is flying, I can see where Sally French is flying. If Sally wants to see where Bill the drone reviewer is flying, she can see where I'm flying, where I'm going. It's like the criminal element in this. Somebody comes there, here comes my brand new Mavic 3 coming down for landing. Oh, there's a gun to my head. I'm sorry, that's my drone. See you later. Hand me the keys. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I actually, going back to the Mavic Air 2, it's sort of interesting what DJI has done with them and ADS-B. Because I'm like, this is sort of an interesting happy medium where DJI is self-policing, that you can see where other aircraft who are broadcasting ADS-B, where they're going or where they've been, but it's not broadcasting your own signal. I just find a very interesting decision.
Well, I want to give you, I'll take a little sidebar here. I've had some interesting experiences with ADS-B. Okay. Now I've done a pretty deep dive, and as far as I know, most private in fact, all private aircraft had to have ADS-B transceiver and transmitter and receiver installed on them as of January 1st, 2020. Okay.
Right.
Now there are some exceptions. One of the exceptions is if an aircraft was originally built without an electrical system. Okay. That would mean like a Piper Cub that was built in the 1940s. All right. Obviously without electrical systems. Okay. And there's certain classes of airspace, but what I found, Sally, that's minimal, and where they're supposed to be active is pretty maximum. Now you can apply, and you can get a waiver not to do your ADS-B, but you have to have a good reason. So in other words, it should be there all the time. And let me tell you two instances. I put out a video about this. All right. I'm getting ready to take off. My Mavic Air 2's on the mat. I haven't started the engines yet. And I get a notification. Okay, this is aircraft in the area. So I go to open up the map. Okay, now there's a filter, and you can filter from aircraft that are near it. It gives you by distance. Okay, so it was on the first one, and there was nothing. I clicked to the second one, there was nothing. I clicked to the third one, there was nothing. Couldn't hear a plane in the sky. Okay, so I figured, okay, they're probably several miles away. All right, about 15 minutes later, I'm flying again. I'm getting ready to take off. And I'm hearing a plane, and you could hear it in my video audibly, clear. Okay. And it's like a Cessna. It's a private plane. He's probably less than 1,000 feet. All right. Nothing on my screen. I opened the other screen up, nothing on there. I mean, well, I forwarded this information to DJI, and I haven't heard anything back on this, but a lot of people were saying, well, oh, that's probably an aircraft that's in an exception, and the other one. And I'm like, okay, with the other one, I opened the map up and it wasn't there. It just, I don't know. So, and that's the only time, because where I live is, unfortunately, it's also a direct route to an Air Force base. Okay. And military aircraft, their ADS-B, it's completely different, and it won't show up. So we won't see military aircraft. So I thought I'd throw that in as far as remote.
Yeah, interesting.
One of the other things that a lot of people have said, and there's going to be a cost involved with remote ID, and it's going to be, again, the burden is going to go to the consumer on this, which
right.
For me, I'm like, okay, I'm paying enough. I'm paying $900 for this drone, and and all the goodies with it, and I'll probably pay whether I get DJI Care Refresh or State Farm Insurance or something. I'm paying probably close to $1,000 for all this. All right. And then now you're telling me I have to go and pay every time. I don't know if it's going to be a per flight use or an annual fee or a monthly fee.
Exactly.
No, it's like, okay, all right. I understand the government needs money to run on. I wasn't born yesterday, but it's like, okay. And I say this, as much as I think the Part 107 is a great thing, okay, at $150 pop every 2 years, it's a money grab. All right. Really. Okay. My whole thing is this. All right. Let's not, there shouldn't be any cost involved, because, you're going to have your places like good places like Kitty Hawk and AirMap and other places are going to, be charging customers for this. And, and it's like, okay, Kitty Hawk as a service is great and paying for it is great, but having to pay for something that I really shouldn't have to pay for, it's just like, it's a conundrum here. It really is.
Yeah. And, I think the biggest concern for me is the hobbyists, because at least, $150 every 2 years for your Part 107 is annoying. But, theoretically, you are a business, and, every business has, some sort of expenses that you have to pay. But the thing that makes me really afraid is how much the average photographer who is going on the trip to Hawaii is going to end up paying. And, those people are really, really important in building up the industry, because DJI's biggest consumers are all just the casual photographers, and their money is being invested into R&D to build the better stuff and the useful stuff, and, the stuff that the enterprise users are using. And so it's really, really important that we don't scare away the hobbyists. I talk about the people not watching Bill the Drone Reviewer. And, sometimes it's easy to make fun of someone who's like a clueless drone pilot and just flying for fun, but they are really, really important to our industry in giving, drone companies the capital for R&D. And so if we're going to be charging them money, someone's going to say, I don't need a drone. Like, I'm going to get a GoPro and do underwater photography instead. Because for a casual photographer, they don't really care. They just want cool stuff for their Instagram.
Yeah. And, and the last thing about remote ID is this, I know a lot of people, and in fact, I dabble in RC airplanes. All right. And, a lot of people from that organization, and I'm sorry, the name escapes me at the moment, they were very heavy lobbying against this as well, too, because part of that rule stated, the drone flyers can come over to their areas if they live within, a 5-mile radius of an airport. They can go to the fields and fly over there, right. And I know these guys, and I'll tell you what, Sally, there's one that's right by me. I mean, you have to pay to join the club, it's not. But a lot of the ones, they have these runways that they have out there are incredible. They have a pit area where you can get set up. They usually have picnic facilities there. They're usually well run and well organized. And these guys are great guys. And you know what? I can tell you this. They'll spend $15,000 or $20,000 on some of these planes. Okay, they're really very serious about this, and they do some fantastic stuff. And I've been around them, and they're great guys. They're so upset about this because it's like all of a sudden, we had our, if you want to call it, lack of a better term, a sanctuary, and now all the drone guys are going to come in and be able to use it. And they're just like, oh my God.
I know. I kind of feel bad for the AMA people. I'm like, oh, the drones have sort of encroached on your, for lack of a better word, safe space. Yeah. No one cared about the AMA. The government ignored the AMA, and then drones come out, and suddenly, their memberships go up, which is nice. But I feel like we've created such a stir for the old model aircraft guys.
Well, we did. We really did. So, I'm hoping the cooler heads are going to prevail here, because and just, I'll close with this about remote ID. All right. Being in IT, when you architect the system, you have to do it and test it out before you actually, run it through some kind of a model to test it out. And I said this from the start, and I said this in my comment, this has never been vetted. This has never been tested out, the system that you propose. It's just been done on, it's somebody's idea that was put up on a whiteboard that said, you know what, let's run with it, and it hasn't been tested out. So, but one that, you have some interesting articles lately that you posted, and, I want to I want to stop and take a minute. I want to thank some people that have shown up. Jay Bird, thank you for the $5 super chat. Sam Burns is on tonight. Ben Thornton, Lon's here tonight. Thank you, Lon. Marcus is on. Thank you, Marcus. Ten Toes is here. Sally Johnson, JSK Enterprise, Stephen Fox, Metro Drones, Bill from Metro Drones. Thank you. John AZ is here. Thank you guys for showing up tonight. All right. One of the things, I really like, there were 3 articles that you had about, the FAA is going to be charging $300 for a virtual discussion. And I saw that, Sally, and I read through that, and I was just like, you have to be kidding me. Okay. You have to be kidding me. It's like, okay, I'll give you an example here. With COVID-19, one of the sites that I've been following on YouTube is MedCram, and it's like medcram.com, and it's a great doc. He's fantastic because it's not political, it's straight up medical, and he hits you between the eyes. Okay, and there's never, it's like there's not a charge. Well, YouTube's got a little funky, and they pulled a couple of his videos because they mentioned hydroxychloroquine. But anyway, he said, go out to medcram.com. The videos out there are free. Now, basically, the whole premise of that channel is to help young doctors or interns who are studying to become a doctor. Okay. And this material is free. Okay. And he's held a couple seminars that normally, where they charge, a lot of money for, online, free. All right. And here's the federal government. Okay. We're in the middle, we're still going through the pandemic. All right. And what are they doing? They're charging $300 for something that's online.
Right. And, it's just so wild because what are they going to announce? And whatever they're going to announce is just going to be public anyway. And I feel like, there's a few reasons why people go to conferences. They want to be the first to the news. They want to be the first to have their hands on the new drone that was just announced. Or they want to be the first to hear about remote ID and, get to go to the bar after and talk to all the other conference goers about, their take on it. And conferences are really about networking. They're about the family reunion. Talking to you online is great, but there's nothing like, getting to go to the bars after with, I feel like I have this drone family who I see every year at places like Interdrone. And so you're not getting that with a virtual conference. And I think, there's still learning to be had. And, it doesn't necessarily need to be free. I understand that there's costs involved. I hope they're paying their speakers, which I would love to know how much they're paying their speakers if they're charging almost $400. But, you're right. I mean, we were just talking 10 minutes ago about, DJI charging for your test and then charging for remote ID possibly, and now charging $375 to go to a conference that's online. It's just so nutso to me. I was reading a report that was basically talking about how much it costs to run a conference versus a video conference. And it's just, such a paltry expense. There's still marketing expenses and, they still need to pay the conference organizers. And if they're using some sort of video chat service, they need to pay for that software. But they're not paying for the food or the hotel rooms or the cleaning, to rent the ballrooms and to provide the coffee. So to pay $375 is just wild.
Yeah, I saw that.
Is anyone in the comments going? I would love to know.
Scratch your head. It just, it's just like one of these things. Doesn't, there's been so many, Sally, this is 2020 should probably be marked as the year of not making sense. Okay. Because, everything has not made sense to me this entire year. Okay. It's like, okay, well, it's like we figured, okay, I think, we became grandparents last year. Yeah. Right. And my granddaughter's going to turn 1 in July. All right. And we thought, back in November, we went up to Ohio in November to see her and spend time with my daughter and her husband and everything. And we said, oh yeah, we'll be here for her birthday. No problem. It's just like, okay. And then boom. Okay. The world explodes basically. And, now, there's no way I'm going to, for right now. Okay. The only way I would consider going up is driving, and even driving. I mean, it's like to drive from Florida to Ohio, it's a 2-day trip. So there's 4 days going up there and coming back and then taking a week off around that, and then it just, so it's not going to happen this year, especially because, she's like 1 year old. Okay. She's not really going to remember us being there. So, it's these kind of things. And then, okay, there's an opportunity to be able to view something online. Oh, okay. And like you said, there are setup costs involved, and that's something that you understand. There are costs for the speaker involved, but there's no hotel, there's no catering, there's no
Right.
having a fancy hors d'oeuvres set out, and drinks and all this. There's none of that. Okay, so it should be a minimal kind of cost. Now,
Yeah. And I'm always, so optimistic. And even throughout all of this coronavirus, I've been trying to be optimistic and thinking, this is good for people who can't afford to travel, because suddenly everything is accessible online. And I know so many people who say, I want to go to a drone conference, but not only I can't pay the registration fee, but I can't pay to travel. I can't pay for 4 days of daycare for my kid when I'm gone. And so, the good thing about coronavirus is that it sort of has democratized a lot of stuff on the internet. Is even if you can't pay to travel, we're all here. And so it's just kind of frustrating to see that this FAA conference still isn't accessible for someone.
Well, it's real interesting, because one of the other things I had on a couple of weeks ago, I had Kelly, who Kelly Shores is from Running.
Yeah.
And he was telling us what they're going to be doing for Spin Up this year is going to be a unique one. They're going to have a virtual Spin Up this year. All right. And they're going to start like at 8:30 in the morning out there. And they're probably going to go till about 2 in the afternoon. And you're still going to pay for it because there are going to be speakers there. But he said, this just blew me away. Okay. His relationship with DJI is just, I have a pretty good relationship with DJI. I was able to get to when they had the Mavic 2 launch event. Okay. I was able to get in. I mean, you gotta have a little bit of pull. And I have just that much pull. Okay. Mm-hmm. Kelly, you know what he said? You know what he told us? He said, DJI is giving them one of every consumer drone that they make to be able to give away at his conference. And that includes if they come out with one in July, like the Mavic 3. So wow. They'll give away a Mini, they'll give away a Mavic Air 2, they'll give away a Mavic 2 series, and they'll give away a Mavic 3 probably as well. Maybe a Phantom 4, who knows? I mean, it's just like, that's incredible. Now, what they're going to do is, Kelly is good friends with Sean Oz, and Sean lives out in Colorado, and he's made arrangements for probably about 4 weeks afterwards. They're going to have like a fly-in up there to where everybody can fly up. It's going to be maybe, I think, late September, October sometime, and be able to go flying. And it's Class G airspace. It's going to be a lot of fun. So it's kind of a different take on Spin Up this year. But I thought this thing with the FAA conference kind of reminded me of that. So that's going to be something I'm really going to look forward to it, because it's going to be nice to kind of sort of meet some people through this virtual thing. Mm-hmm. And Ellie's looking for ideas right now, so we're kind of going in that direction. You had another article about drones fighting the coronavirus, and one of the things, before I want to talk about that, I remember first seeing, and this is when this is before the virus hit us here in the United States. I saw them using, and I think they were DJI agricultural drones in Wuhan, and they were spraying disinfectant up in the air. And I'm like, it kind of boggled my mind. I'm like, okay, why are you, it just didn't make any sense at the time. I didn't understand, obviously they knew more about the virus, and that's a whole nother evening's topic, talking about that. But, they were using them more that I saw for crowd control. And your article talked about how they are in Shanghai. And I really thought that was interesting.
Yeah. So there are so many use cases of drones coming out right now, and some of them seem really useful. Some of them seem like it's companies trying to capitalize on the hype. And then there's sort of this weird middle ground of I'm not sure about that. Is that good or bad? And so, the disinfecting drones were really, really interesting. DJI was actually using drones in Shenzhen to spray. Shenzhen's where their HQs are, to spray with disinfectant. And people have since then come out with studies saying that's not actually a useful use case. It ends up just putting more chemicals into the air, that the environment doesn't need more chemicals. And so what's sort of interesting is DJI actually walked back on that, and they said, actually, we don't recommend using our products to spray disinfectant. And so, it's kind of interesting. Like, hindsight's 2020, and I like that DJI tried something, they learned from it, and they said, actually, never mind, we're not doing that. So that was sort of like an interesting use case. I'm seeing lots of drone deliveries, whether it's someone who can't leave their house, so it's bringing medication or food to them. But a lot of companies are capitalizing on the drone delivery, for better or for worse. But there was a really interesting one, is that a company, Aerobotics, is doing surveillance in Singapore, because Singapore has, as most countries do, have strict rules about where you can and can't be right now and how big crowds can be. And so Singapore is deploying surveillance drones, and it's interesting to think about, just the culture of surveillance drones in the US. I think people would be outraged, but in Singapore, people are sort of okay with it. Is really interesting.
Well, what was real interesting the other day, and I saw this, and I forget through what how they found this out, and I don't know if it was through AirMap or through somebody else. I guess the Freedom of Information Act. Somebody found that a Predator drone from the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. Now you have to remember, Minnesota is just, it's not far, it borders Canada. A Predator drone, an unarmed Predator drone, was circling Minneapolis when the riots came out. Okay, and apparently just to get, a feed to whomever to see, which I thought was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The drone. Now I'm going to say this too, and I told my wife last night, I was up at 2:30 in the middle of the night. And, when I was heading back to bed, I heard something outside and it sounded like a plane. Okay. And then I took a pretty good look, and I said, you know what? I recognize now, one of the things, my ears are really good, and I can hear things very well. And it wasn't like a Cessna. All right. It was a Predator drone that was flying up last night where we were, because, as I told you, we're like in a landing pattern that goes to the Air Force Base here in Tampa. And unfortunately, we had some of the riots hit us here. I didn't think, I thought Tampa's not a big city. Well, yeah, forget that. They hit us there too. So I think they were up doing some surveillance last night as well too, which I thought was, as long as they're doing, as long as it's surveillance, I don't have a problem with that. I think, they kind of need to know what's going on as far as that's concerned. One, and the article that I really liked was, this drone camp, article that you put out. I thought that was fantastic. And in fact, I know exactly where it's at. It's up on, it wasn't far from, I lived in Columbus, and I'm pretty familiar with northeastern Ohio. My ex-wife was from up in that area, and it's Geneva on the Lake, which is right up on Lake Erie up there. And it was just, it was such a nice read today. It's like, your mind's getting cluttered with, it's been cluttered with coronavirus, and, now all the riots and looting and all that. And then to have it was so refreshing to read that today, Sally.
Yes, thank you. I was so excited to hear some just refreshing, as you said, good news. So for those of you who are following online, there is now a summer camp. You have to be in high school, so I don't know if any of us are eligible, but there's now a summer camp, an overnight camp, all structured around drone racing. And it's really interesting because it's not just teaching kids how to race drones, but it's also teaching them a lot of business practices. A lot of the most famous drone pilots aren't necessarily the fastest or the best drone pilot, but they've cultivated this really interesting persona on their Instagram. And so the drone camp even teaches kids, Instagram best practices in business, and how do you ask for money to be on a drone team? That's not, a job you're used to negotiating for. And so I'm like, gosh, this drone camp seems like so much fun. It's a week-long camp with other high schoolers, and they provide your food and all that and your lodging, and then you fly drones all day. And, of course, every story is a coronavirus story now. So I guess sadly, or maybe happily, they're offering a virtual version as well. So you can still log on from your computer, and you won't get, that camaraderie of eating together in the dining hall, but you can still sort of take part in the drone camp just from your own house and flying drones virtually that way.
I absolutely like, it's like I said, can I be 15 again? It's like, you see
Yeah.
that and it's just like, you want to take a step back. And I mean, I read that one young gentleman, a 15-year-old, he won the world champion, won $275,000. I'm just like, hello, well, I got to say this though. Okay. I know Kelly Shorts, he's a real big fan of the DJI goggles. Okay. And I have to say this, I'm the kind of person, because I'm just one of those people. It would disorient me like nothing. Okay, that's why I never have gotten into goggles at all, or have tried them out, or have done even FPV kind of stuff. It's because I just can't. Physically, my just spatially, I'm really kind of I'm spatially challenged. Well, I've been my wife says I'm very challenged, but besides that, it's just like it's really hard for me to be able to do something like that. So that's not going to work for me. But kudos to these kids that are doing this. I mean, and like you said in the article, and what I really liked was, these kind of things open the doors for them to look into like, like DJI, Autel, other companies, for Skydio 2, open up the door for these kind of people to be able to come in and be engineers for them,
right.
And I got to say this, and one of the other last things that I want to talk about is this, a company I have been rooting for since day one is Skydio. Okay. I have to say, their business model and everything, they chosen, I mean, it was a hard route to go, assembling the things here in the United States, because we don't have the throughput that they have over in Shenzhen. But I'll tell you what, I was on the list to get one, and I pulled my name. It's like
interesting.
And now, it's like, well, my friends Ron and Marcus each have one, and they absolutely love it. But the thing is, with that drone, and just to kind of like a sidelight, it's not a typical drone. Okay,
right, right.
It's that Parrot controller. They both have said it leaves a lot to be desired. But that beacon is just golden, the way it works and everything. And, there may be a point that I will definitely revisit that, because some of that video that comes off there, Sally, has just been fantastic. But I really like seeing American companies. I mean, it really is an American company succeeding. And I think they're doing a great job. And I think their customer service, from everything that everybody has told me, they have been off the charts and taking care of customers. Every story I've heard has been very favorable. So, I mean,
well, it sounds like they're looking to start up manufacturing again and start shipping those things this summer. So it'll be really interesting to hear what people actually think about the Skydio 2. As you said, everyone wants a drone that's not DJI. I mean, someone in the comment was like, Sally sounds like a DJI fangirl. And you're right. I think they make a great product. But I want a company to compete with DJI, and there's really not one yet. And we were rooting for Autel. I was rooting for Unique. Those are both Chinese companies. But to have an American-made company, and that's such a hot topic right now, is drones made in the USA.
Yeah.
I think, a lot of people are cheering for Skydio, and I'm really curious to see what they're like. That said, don't feel bad about pulling out your deposit. I always advise people. It's like hindsight's always 20/20, as they say.
Well, just to touch on this before we wrap things up, I bought a Hubsan Xeno 2 because I know Ron and Marcus have. In fact, they have a show on at 9:00 every Monday called Xeno Nation, and they talk usually about the Hubsan Xeno. Well, they came out with a second version of it, which is a bigger one. And it was a real disappointment. And let me tell you this, okay? I purchased it and I sold it before I even flew it. Okay. It inherently has so many issues and so many problems.
Right.
In fact, like the lens system on there, there's this lens flare every time that you hit the sun, and it's part of the lens, and it's something that they need to replace. Now, conversely, I have on order, and it's coming, is a FIMI X8 SE 2020. And I'll tell you what, that the interest in that drone has gone off the charts. I have a group that started out at 0 people, and we're now approaching 800, and it's way past up the Hubsan Xeno 2 group that I have. And there's been and it's a worldwide interest, because it's a drone that, I'm seeing a lot of people from the UK, from Europe, from Southeast Asia, Australia. A lot of people are very interested in this drone and its capabilities. And it's a $400, it's $399. I mean, and from what Marcus has told me, and Ron has flown it too, it's a much better drone than the Xeno 2. So, Bill the Drone Reviewer isn't just the DJI guy. I'm going to be, when mine comes, we're going to be spending a lot of time on that and taking a look at that. And, like I said, I'll probably be looking at Skydio 2, somewhere down the road, when the funds permit, maybe.
Yeah, let someone else test the early units. And I always think it's better to buy the second version anyway. I mean, I guess this is the second version, is the Skydio 2, but wait and let other people pay to get the bugs out, and then you buy the better product.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, we just celebrated yesterday was 3 years on the air. And this is kind of like, I'm having a show tonight and I'm doing one tomorrow night as well. I did one yesterday. So I'm, one to kind of like celebrate each year. I had a show Sunday afternoon, just to celebrate the 3rd anniversary, had you on tonight. And then tomorrow night, and I'm going to say our very special guest tomorrow night is Billy Kyle. So for all of you who are watching tonight, stay tuned. Billy is fantastic. We're going to have a great hour. Sally, this hour went by so quick. I could probably talk to you for another hour easily, and still not exhaust the subjects. But first of all, I want to say to you again, I go to, Drone DJ. I go to your Twitter feed every day. I also go to Drone XL because, hey, Kestelou now is on Drone XL. That's where I get the bulk of my information in terms of, what's going on every day. And Sally, your articles are always so well written. It's like, okay, I'm going to say this. All right. I'm not the grammar police, but I'll tell you what, your grammar is just spotless. It's flawless. Okay. And I appreciate that because, a lot of people have said my grammar's been like that too when I write. So, I really appreciate a well-written article. And if you guys are, haven't checked Sally out, please do so. I'll drop links in the description for you guys to do that. Her writing is fantastic. She stays on top of everything that's going on in the drone community. Plus, she has a regular full-time job too. So I mean, it's you are the jack of all trades. I'll tell you that, Sally.
Well, thank you. I didn't pay you enough money to flatter me as much as you did, but I love it.
Well, so we're glad you're doing okay. I know it's just like one of those times right now. On top of the pandemic, we have all the craziness that's going on, and I'm hoping calmer heads will prevail. We'll get back to some semblance of normal. And it's like I'm desperate to go out. The only flying I've done has been from my backyard. There's a soccer field I'd love to go to right now, but with curfew now because of this, the rioting and looting and all that stuff, it's just not going to happen right now. So, I'm kind of like itching to get out, but slowly but surely, we're going to get there. And, we're glad you're doing well. It's great to have you sit down and chat with you for an hour. Again, I'll drop links in the description so you can check out Sally on Twitter and also her blog, and it's incredible. You guys need to, if you're out on Twitter, you need to follow her. You also need to bookmark her blog as well too. She does have a YouTube channel as well. So and please, guys, do follow her because she's one of the best sources of information out there about drones, and she has a passion for drones that's second to none. And the other thing that I like, and I'll tell you this, my granddaughter, okay. When she gets to be old enough, guess what she's getting? Okay, she's getting a drone. Okay, because my son-in-law has already said she's going to be a tech nerd, like my daughter is. My daughter's a tech nerd, so we're going to get her up there. Sally, thank you so much. Appreciate your coming on tonight.
Thank you. Thank you all the commenters. You're so much fun to watch. All you guys commenting.
These guys are fantastic. I have great guys in the comments section. They're a riot. But
I see another Sally hiding in the comments. We need
there's another Sally hanging on in the comments. Sally Johnson. So I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. We're going to be on tomorrow night, so make sure you come in at. We're going to be on at 8:00 Eastern tomorrow night. So be sure to that. Billy's going to be on. We're going to have a great show. So everybody take care and remember, it's a great day to fly.